Hi, I'm MATSU. Hope this is not too late, but Happy New Year. Today, we're back with a food series, and we are making noodles. Speaking of New Year, in Japan, on New Year's Eve or All-Misoka, there's a dish that people would have. It's called Toshikoshi Soba. Toshikoshi has the meaning of crossing the year, and the dish itself has the symbolism of breaking off the past year. For the first episode of the food series in 2022, let's try to make this dish in Blender. I know it doesn't make sense to make it in the new year because you are supposed to have it on December 31st, but yeah. First, let's make a bowl. Making a bowl is easy. Just add a cylinder and make use of proportional editing. Add some subdivisions and you're done. Now let's take an edge loop from the bowl and make a circular surface by extruding the loop inwards. Hit E for extrude, then S for scaling it down, and hit M merge at center to merge those extruded vertices. Select the face and separate it by hitting P, then choose selections. This plane will be the soup surface of the noodle. After that, hit Shift A, curve, Bezier. Then enter edit mode for the curve that you just created and delete all the points. We'll start drawing out our noodles from here. Select the draw curve tool on the left, not the annotation by the way, this one. On the top left, select surface so the curve that we draw will stick to a surface, just like this. Now before we draw more noodles, back to the object mode, hit Shift A, curve, circle, and maybe call it something like noodle shape. Rename the other objects as well. The curve should be noodles, and the plane is the soup, and the bowl is the bowl. Select the curve and in the curve settings, scroll down to geometry and go to bevel. Select object and pick the circle you created. The circle is now the shape of the noodles, so adjust the shape of the circle, maybe a little bit more squarish, then scale it down. The curve now looks a little bit more like noodles. Now I'm going to start drawing some new noodles. I'll delete the points that I drew and start over. I'm drawing the noodles like this, like a U shape, and I just keep repeating the same thing. When you're done, it would be better to add some materials, so let's add a material for everything. For the bowl, I'm using a simple two-step shader. Just like this, principled shader, shader to RGB, color ramp, output. For the soup, it's the same thing, but the color ramp goes into an emission shader, which is mixed with a transparent BSTF. Remember to change the materials blend mode to alpha blend and adjust the mix between the emission and the transparent shaders to make the soup more transparent. We'll come back to this shader later. For the soba, it's also similar to the bowl's shader, just with different colors. Go to rendered view and add some lighting so you can adjust the materials until it looks good. I'll then move the noodles a little bit downwards so part of the noodles is under the soup. I'll then duplicate the noodles, move them further down the soup, and just rotate it for a little bit, just to make it look different from the top one. You may adjust the colors a little bit more, and we will go back to the soup material. Hey, remember the drink material that we used in the last food series video? Essentially, I'll make the same thing for the soup, but everything will be more subtle and more transparent. Unlike the shader that I used for the drinks, I only included a base and a highlight, but you can make changes if you want. I wanted to add some highlights where the noodles have contact with the soup using ambient occlusion, but it didn't work that well, so I gave up on that. From here, I'll adjust the colors of the background and objects a little bit more, then I'll start putting some more food on the noodle. When I search for references, I can see some fish cakes with pink and white colors on top of the noodles. To make those, I'll add a circle, turn it into a plane, then unwrap it from the top view using the project from view bounce option. Then remove half of the plane. Like the drink shader, we can create a spherical gradient using the UV coordinates. Just make sure to scale the XY to 2 and change the XY location to -1. Then we just need a color ramp to recreate the pink and white on the fish cakes. In edit mode, scale down the plane and extrude it down. Maybe give it some bevel so it won't cut your mouth. Lastly, I'll just multiply some two-step shading on top of the base color and you'll have your nice fish cakes. We're just halfway through, so keep going. Now we are making the green onions. Create a cylinder without the top and bottom faces. Scale it down until it looks like a ring of green onion. Give it a two-step shader and give it some colors. You can put it aside for now. Then add an icosphere and delete the bottom half. This will be the emitter for our green onion particle system. So place it on the noodle and give it a particle system. Select hair and choose render as object and pick the green onion. Remember to uncheck show emitter. Play around with the number and randomize the rotations and sizes of the green onions. You can move around the emitter as well. Duplicate the green onion object and make a lighter one. We can duplicate the particle system on the emitter and change the seed. Maybe add some thickness to the onions and give the emitter a transparent shader. Just for better preview, you can play around with the shape of the emitter and the green onions are done. Now it's a crazy part cause we are making some shrimp tempuras. Make a cylinder, add a few loops and fill one hole on one end using the grid fill function. Scale parts of the cylinder with the help of proportional editing. I'll then add a displace modifier and use a cloud texture for the displacement. Use a lower strength. Make a tail for the tempura and give the object two materials for the tail and the breadcrumbs respectively. I'll keep using the same type of shaders for both of the materials, but for the tail, I'll add some variation in colors using a noise texture. I thought the tail looked a little bit weird, so I fixed the shape for a bit and excluded the tail from the displace using a vertex group. I went back and tweaked the tail material, adjusting colors from the noise and just multiplied the noise with a two-step shader. I placed the shrimp onto the noodle and this is how it looks like. With the help of the rice technique that I showed in the earlier videos, we can add some smaller breadcrumbs with icospheres. They didn't look that good at first, but after that data transfer modifier, they just look so much better. Now we just need to adjust the colors of the tempura and duplicate one more. And now, you are finally done. To me, this is a project that has some surprising results. I honestly thought the final product is gonna look really bad, which right now, it isn't. Sometimes you just have to try and just do it. Thank you so much for watching and I hope you can break off the past and have a great year. By the way, my live 2D model is pretty much done, so for the next video, maybe I'll talk a little bit about live 2D. Anyway, thank you so much and I'll see you next time.